Hello, my name is Etta Grace and welcome back to the channel. Today I am interviewing Moriah Chavis. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
And I'm talking with her about her book, Heart of the Sea, which I recently read and really enjoyed. So, first, do you mind telling us a bit about who you are and what it is that you write?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Moriah Chavis. I write YA fantasy. My target audience is like 13 to 18, so definitely like the teen readers. And Heart of the Sea is a YA pirate fantasy. I like to, it's like a story of sisters. It's got a little bit of romance in it. So by day, I'm a school librarian. And then every spare moment, I have something that I'm working on writing wise. And so, yeah.
That's so cool. I always loved the school librarians and the local librarians growing up. They had a big impact on my childhood. I was there like every week. So, that's cool that you're providing that to your community.
Yeah, it's a great job. I like to tell people it's so nice being able to because like when you recommend books to kids, it's like an immediate connection, especially if they enjoy it. And so it's great.
That's awesome. So, Heart of the Sea follows two main characters, Narissa and Cyrus. And so, my first question was asking about which of their POV point of views was easier to write. Did you connect to one of them more less than the other?
I thought Narissa's was really easy to write. Her voice came first, and then Cyrus, I kind of added him later. He started out in third person point of view, which I changed him to first person. And so I just had to find my footing with Cyrus a little bit more. But Narissa, like I knew her motivations, I knew what she wanted to do. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, and yes, the plot was it was really really messy after the first draft. But as far as Narissa and her character motivations, like she came pretty fully developed at the beginning, which was really nice. And so Cyrus was he needed a little bit more work.
Switching from third person to first person sounds really interesting. I've had to change the tense in a novel before, and that was a
Mhm.
nightmare of my own creation. So, I imagine how much rewriting did you have to do for that?
It wasn't too bad. I still caught like errors every now and then just because it is very tedious. It's like, trying to pick out like, a needle in a haystack because you're trying to catch all those, changing it from him to he to me to I and all that stuff. And so yeah, it was tedious work. And it's definitely not fun, but his chapters sometimes ended up being shorter. And I think Narissa's story is longer, so it didn't take as long as if I like had hers in in third person. That would have taken a long time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When I changed the tense in my novel Runaways from past to present, I realized present worked better for the age group I was writing it for. I printed it out and I used a red pen to mark like every single sentence because I'm like, every sentence has a verb. If there's not red pen on every sentence, that means I'm skimming. And so that helped me edit that a lot easier, but it was very tedious. So,
That's definitely
especially
the definition
retyping
of
all of it
making.
up.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely the definition of making the page bleed. Like it would just
Yeah.
be all red.
It's funny going to look back at it. So this is was a sorry, I'm stumbling over my word. It's been a long
It's
day.
okay.
Was this your first time writing a romance? And how did you balance the characters' conflicting motivations and goals alongside developing the relationship as you were writing the story?
I think everything that I have ever written always has a romance in it. I like reading romance. I like for it to be in the story. I don't necessarily like it to be the focal point of the story. I don't read a lot of just strictly romance novels, if really any, but I do like there to be a romance, just because I think it adds like a whole new element, a realistic element too, because like, in life, there'll be these things going on, and all of a sudden there's romance, and it's not necessarily in the best time. And so I liked how it's just like thrown in there. So definitely with them, I had to make sure it wasn't too fast because he's been sent to kill her. So I didn't want it to be like unrealistically fast. I think with them, it also starts out as like just it does start out with just like an interest and attraction, but then the more they go, I wanted to build like a relationship where it's actually like he admires her, she admires him, and then they make each other better. And so, just making sure that I followed, I didn't speed things up too much or have them too slow, just, making sure I hit those beats when I needed to hit them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know pacing is a hard part of any novel, especially when you're balancing a subplot with all of the like main plot drama going on. And so it's definitely interesting to hear about that process, trying to hit the beats alongside keeping the story and the separate point of views balanced.
Yeah, with Heart of the Sea too, there's the found family element. And so I wanted each of the characters that are on the ship to have like their distinctive personalities. And so like I even when I had to cut some of the characters because there was so many on the ship at first because I was like, there's 12 people on a pirate crew or on a ship crew, so I have to have 12. I shortened that so that it's just like mercenaries helping in the background. But there was some like characters I couldn't get away from. Like I didn't want to let them go. Like Bessie and Duncan, they have like this thing going on in the background, and I wanted to make sure that people like saw that because I'm like I love Bessie and Duncan. Like I want people to see that they have their own little like weird romantic interest thing going on. And so like I said, just making sure each character had a personality that was distinctive enough so that you could tell who was who.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that kind of leads into my next question about which side character is your favorite and why. And then if, as a secondary question to this, if you had any side characters that you cut for the sake of page time, were there any favorites among that batch that you had to get rid of?
Yes to both of those. So I loved writing Bessie. I think she was fun to write just because she's so sarcastic and she's like no nonsense. She tells Cyrus whatever she thinks. And so with her, I had a lot of fun writing her character because I was just like, I would say this in the situation, like I would think this in the situation, but I wouldn't actually say it. And she just actually says it. And so that was
Yeah.
fun. And so but I had one character and he was like a 9-year-old little boy that was on the ship. His name
Oh,
was Benji, and I had to cut him. And I was so sad that I had to cut him. I did give some of his lines to Duncan just because I liked some of his lines. But yeah, I had him on there, and he was just like, I think I had too much comic relief. So I had Duncan and then I had Benji, and I had to pick one of them. And I was like, I want to pick Duncan because I want the romance with Bessie to still be there. And so, but yeah, I was sad to cut Benji. So,
that's so sad. I
um,
always love
yeah.
a cabin boy character. I grew up on
Yeah.
stories like Treasure Planet and Treasure Island, and Jim being the cabin boy. So that's a lot of fun. Sad he didn't make it to the page, but I understand sometimes you have to kill your
Yeah.
darlings. It's
Well, like,
heartbreaking.
in my head, if I were to write like a short story that was like a companion to this, it would be them finding Benji for the first time and like after the events of Heart of the Sea instead of them finding him before the events of Heart of the Sea because he is like an orphan boy that they find in like the streets. And so, I mean, that was mainly his background. But and so like if I was ever to write a short story, I think it would be fun to write, them finding that character for the first time just because I did love him and I was sad to let him go.
That would be so much fun. I would absolutely read that. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about all the different roles on a pirate ship. So if you were to live in the world of A Heart of the Sea, what would your role be if you could be on Nerissa and Cyrus's co-captained pirate ship?
First of all, I think this is so ironic, but I am scared of the ocean. Like I don't I don't like I don't like getting in the ocean. I don't like swimming in the ocean. Like I don't like the fact that I can't see what's around me or that like the creatures that are in the ocean, they have the advantage because they can breathe underwater. Like the whole concept of the ocean terrifies me. So I don't even know if I want to get on their ship, to be honest. And so, but I don't know. I would probably, I like to be someone who is like I'm a good delegator. So I think I don't know with the different roles on a pirate ship. I think I would fall kind of where Bessie falls. Like she's gonna tell the captain as it is just because he needs to hear it. And I think that would be a fun role to play.
That's so fun. I'm going to skip ahead to a question that I had later in the list just because your answer has me curious. Because I was going to ask, do you have a connection to the ocean yourself? Or do you have a favorite, like, beach trip growing up or a story that inspired this? Because, like, I was a Pirates kid growing up, like, through and through. I grew up in a landlocked state. So my siblings and I would be on our back trampoline, like, playing pirate ship on a trampoline in the Appalachian Mountains. So I was curious if you had a, like, pirates story or like background too. I'm so just surprised to hear that you don't actually like the ocean that much.
I know. I never get in the ocean. Whenever we go to the beach, I'll put my feet in the water, but like I never go below like more than knee deep. Like I don't swim in the ocean. And so I think, that I think that kind of did help because Narissa is so terrified of the water, but she has this connection to it. Like she's terrified of what it will do to her. But then with her, she's able to be like, well, I shouldn't be scared because I'm actually as strong as it is. Or if I, lean into the powers that she has, then it's not something to be terrified of. It's something to like to welcome. And so, I mean, I read a lot of like, I've always been fascinated by mermaid stories. So I read a lot of mermaid books when I was like in my, preteens, early teens. This was like the height of YA when it was like really popular, like when it was becoming really popular. So they were publishing a lot of like you know, what I don't know if this makes sense, but like very stereotypical YA, like you can tell the characters are teenagers, you can tell like the things they're going through are teenage things. And so like I can't remember who the author is, but she wrote like this trilogy about mermaids, and I love that one. And then I love Pirates of the Caribbean. My husband's a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean. So he listens to the music scores. And so during COVID, we were watching just like a different movie, like trilogies and stuff. And so we watched all of Harry Potter, we watched um all of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I think we watched. I don't know if we watched. No, I don't think we watched the Hunger Games that time. I think that was a different time. But like all these trilogies and stuff, and Pirates of the Caribbean was one of them. And so I was like, it'd be really fun to write like a pirate story, but there's like more magic. Like I know there's magic in Pirates of the Caribbean, but I thought, what if like this girl has powers of the sea, but she's terrified of them, and she's got to save her sister, and so that's where that came from.
Mhm. I always thought of Pirates of the Caribbean as like, oh, it's a historical fiction story. And then it
Yeah,
becomes a fantasy. And then everybody has to like quick adapt to the new genre or else get left
yeah.
behind. And so I thought it was fun that the world building was integrated into the story, like from the beginning. In this one. So one of my other questions is, did you have a favorite world building element, either the mermaids or the shifting maps or Nerissa's powers? Like what was your favorite part to write and develop as you built this world?
I think it was fun to figure out Narissa's powers just to make sure that I wasn't contradicting myself. And then the shifting map, like I wanted it to be something that they both needed each other to be able to read it. And like in my head, I have all these other things that go on in this world. And so each element of it is like, there's the Queen Wayland, who she has this connection with cats, and then there's sorry, my cat, speaking of that, is playing with my is playing with my wrist. So she has the connection to cats. And then, so like in the world, I was like, there's some elemental magic, but there's also familial magic. So that's why Cyrus has magic with crows. And I just thought crows would be cool because I wanted him to have some magic too. And so that kind of just came out of nowhere. Cyrus Crow, he can talk to crows. He has a crow that he always is on his shoulder. And so, figuring out the magic. And then I like coming up with names of things. And so I was actually talking about this with Amanda Aller when I did a live for her subscribers on her Instagram the other day. And I was talking about how I use like this website and I find the roots of words and where they came from. And then I kind of blend them together to make them sound like what I want people to like, what emotions I want them to feel when they read them. And so I
That's
really
cool.
enjoy doing that. Yeah.
So it's like kind of making a conlang, but not doing all of the grammar behind it.
Yeah.
That's really smart because I've always wanted to come up with new words for my fantasy stories, but I do not have the time and energy to develop
Yeah,
a
so I
Tolkien.
had a notebook. I had a notebook, and I was like, when I was naming the places, originally I was going to write it as like historical fantasy, but then I was like, I would much prefer to create this whole thing by myself, like this whole
Mhm.
magic system and everything. And so like Brevlira, I use like the term for light. I think it was the word light, airy, or breeze or something. And so I wanted people to feel like they were, taking a breath when they got there, because I feel like that's where Narissa, she's wanting to go because she feels like that's the place that's going to save everything. And so a breath. And then Terrasseron, I wanted a word, that's the where Queen Wayland lives. I wanted a word that was very harsh sounding. And it evicted like it got readers thinking of somebody who was harsh. The landscapes might be harsh, the rulers might be harsh and stuff like that. I mean, some of them are obvious, like Dragonlands, like that's where the dragons are. But the
Yeah.
other ones, like Halivaris, the Lady of Halivaris, they talk about her a few times. Like she lives in a very snowy climate, and you don't really know what to think of her. So I wanted the name to sound kind of mysterious and everything. And so it just kind of depended on who lived there, what their climate was like, what their personalities were like, what kind of cultural, aspects were a part of it and everything like that.
That's
Which
really
sounds really
cool.
complicated, but it's actually fun.
Yeah, like they all sound like places that could exist in the real world. And so it was cool, like getting to learn the politics and where these people come from and how they relate to the places that they're from. It felt like a very fleshed out world.
Well,
But
thanks.
yeah, writing historical fantasy is a entire other can of worms when it comes to the research side of things. So I
It's hard. It's
understand
not for me.
why you don't want to avoid that. So I'm looking through my list of questions that I've now jumbled up, and I'm trying to see which ones I've missed. Oh, you talked about watching Pirates of the Caribbean in 2020 during quarantine. I remember during quarantine, there was a trend of the Wellerman song, and
Mhm.
sea shanties got really popular. So I'm dying of curiosity. Do you listen to sea shanties while you write? And do you have any favorites, or do you have other character playlists or songs that influenced the story that you'd be willing to share?
I don't actually listen to music when I write. I find it distracting. I am not a big music person. I thought the trend during 2020 was very neat, very cool. And I do love sea shanties. I think I just like the way they sound because, they have a very culturally different sound to them because it is from like, Ireland and Scotland and everything. I think Ireland is the main place, but yeah, so I think that trend went around is so neat, and I love to find new ones, like new sea shanties and everything. Um, just because I think they sound so cool. But well, actually, when I was in high school, or middle school, actually, I was in marching band, and we did a marching band show that was based off of like the Mariners Tale or something, and it was horrible. It was not fun at all. It was like a really boring show. The music was not fun. But there's that song about what do you do with a drunken sailor? And so every time I hear that song, I'm like taken back to middle school, and I don't know if I like that or not. So, but so hearing it with like a more upbeat tone definitely helps. And so
That is
yeah,
like the iconic sea shanty. Like that's the sea
I
shanty of
know.
all sea shanties. So
I know, and I cannot listen to it without
that
thinking of
is
middle
so
school.
funny. Yeah, I am always a big music person. I always have music on in the background, which is why I asked the question. But like while I was listening, I had on the longest Johns and the stuff that I was listening to during 2020. I'm like, ah, this is a good vibe. So I was
Yeah,
just
it is.
curious if
It
you
is a
have
whole vibe.
something
It's
else.
nice. Yeah, it is. It is nice. I don't know. I mean, music. I have like a playlist for something that I'm working on now, and I'll listen to it every now and then. But it doesn't like sometimes it'll spark my creativity. But I'm very I don't know, like just things around me, like random things will give me like this idea. Like I was teaching one day, and I was like playing this video for the kids, and it was like talking about New Year's traditions around the world, and it was like this Russian tradition with bears. And I was like, it'd be really cool to write a story about bears that were magic. And I was like, see, it comes out of nowhere. And I actually did. Yeah, it's going to be in a anthology that comes out. I think it's either 2024 or 2025.
Oh, that's so
And
fun.
it's a Snow White inspired anthology. So it's about this girl who's her cousin is going to be the new he's going to marry the new czar, and she gets poisoned, and so the cousin has to go into the bear kingdom to take the heart of the bear princess. But then there's all this like somebody had to poison her and stuff like that. And so, but yeah.
That sounds like so much fun. I am so excited to read that whenever it comes out. So my last question is kind of just a freebie. If there's anything that you want to talk about that we haven't touched yet, or any things that you have coming up that I've missed, feel free to share them now.
Yeah, so I have my next novel. It comes out next year in September. I'm actually working with my publisher right now to make like an editing plan because I'll be editing it through the months of November and December. So it'll be my nano project, even though I don't really do NaNoWriMo. It'll be what we're going to be working on. My goal is to get a lot of words down, to get some edits down. And so it's like a Victorian mysteries with supernatural elements into it. So it was hard because it's based off a short story that I wrote for 20 Hills Press, for 20 Hills Publishers, called Ghost at Midnight. And so I just lengthened it into like a novel length. And so it's got way more mysteries and way more, into like life and death are involved. And so I'm really excited about it. And so that comes out next year. And I've already seen like a mock-up of the cover. And so I'm even more excited about that. And then I have a Christmas short story coming out with my publisher for Heart of the Sea in December. I think it's December, and it's a Nutcracker. It's inspired by the Nutcracker. It's called The Last Dance, and so it's a shorter story, and it's about the Rat King, and so it's fun.
That's so cool. So are there going to be more works in the Heart of the Sea universe, or is it just like the one book and then whatever short stories you write around it?
Right now it's just a standalone. It ends kind of with an end, but I do leave room for more. If for anybody who has finished the book, I leave room for more adventures. And so when I wrote it, it was a standalone. And so I wanted to keep it a standalone, but I also wanted to give the possibility of exploring the world more. Because it does, if you've looked at the map that's in the front cover of the book, it does, the world is a lot bigger than just what they explore in the novel. And so, but yeah, right now I don't have any plans for it, but I'm not opposed to it either. So.
Okay, sounds good. So then where can we find you and your work online?
I'm mainly on Instagram. That's where a lot of my readers follow me just because I'm on there the most. And I like Instagram because I feel like it's really easy to connect to people. I like being able to talk like back, like to be like someone comments and I can comment back. Someone message me, I can message back. So I'm on Instagram a lot. My username is just at Moriah.Chavis. So it's that. And then I do have a Facebook page. It's just cross post with everything that goes on my Instagram, on my newsletter. I'm really bad about sending them out. So if you only want to get like 10 to 12 emails a year from me, I would totally sign up because I don't send that many. And so yeah, I don't have a Twitter. I don't really use TikTok. So
Neither do
mainly
I. That's
Instagram.
okay.
Yeah, mainly Instagram. And then you can buy my books anywhere they're sold online. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Oh yeah, I had a great time.